Isabella Les,
Michael Tam,
Patricia Nidden,
Rafael Vasquez,
Chris.
When you're creating games, you really have to be inventive. Games are all about creativity, especially when you're creating new technology. When you're developing for something that hasn't been done before, you don't really know how it's going to work, and you don't know how people are going to interact with it. So you can't really predict how the whole methodology, how the process of developing it will become. The only way to do this is to create what you think is the best solution, and then start iterating on it. Start checking, well, this works, this doesn't work. And traditional methods of developing products just don't work for this. We have to use Agile.
So Agile, and it's always funny because I think that every person who works in Agile for an extended period of time has a different opinion of what Agile entails. But from my perspective, Agile is really in opposition to waterfall, which is the traditional method of hierarchy and production pipeline, where the project moves from A to B to C to D phase. Waterfall methodology isn't possible because waterfall is beginning to end, and that's it. That's the final product.
Because we use Agile methodology, we use a backlog board. So it has different columns, and one of them is to do. So it's a to-do list of different tasks that we have. Because first, we have a main goal, which has different objectives, and we filter it down into a lot of tasks that are very short, so we can time them in no more than 2 days, let's say. So we can schedule something that we call sprints, which we're trying to do them weekly, on a weekly basis, so that way each week we can test out the product we're making.
So we'll have the scrum, and then everyone kind of shows what they were kind of doing a little bit more in depth the day before. And then we start working on projects. There's meetings scheduled throughout the day for the different, we have the design team, we have the art team, and we have the interface team. And they kind of all go and have little meetings, and then if they have any findings, they bring it back to the group for decisions, or suggestions, or hey, that looks like a good idea, maybe we should expand on that. Actually, when you first start doing scrums, a lot of people recommend standing up through it because they're only supposed to be about 3 minutes, not per person, in total. And then towards the end of the day, we have basic dailies where we go through what we did that day and see where our progress lies. Scrum is absolutely mandatory.
The roles depend a lot on which type of project you're doing. Some roles are always there, for example the Scrum Master or the Client Representative, but others will change depending on what project you're doing. For example, the Scrum Master, he's a very important role. He's the one that in the dailies he makes everyone stand up and gives the word to each single member of the team, so there's no confrontation and people will not speak out of turn. The Client Representative, on the other hand, what he does is he stands in for the client. He makes sure that the features the client requires are always there, and that they're in the quality that the client will accept. Other roles, for example, there's the Time Manager, which is the one that is in charge of keeping everyone on time. Not in the schedule, not in the big sense, but in the small sense. I mean, each day, how much meetings are gonna take, or scrums. He's the one that tells everyone, okay guys, we're getting out of hand, right? There's also the Graphic Recorder, who during the meetings, what he does is he starts drawing on whiteboards what everyone's talking about so everyone can visualize it, and that helps to allow the communication to flow better. There's also the Note Keeper, which is in charge of documenting everything during meetings, so that if anyone wants to go back to what they said during a meeting, it's always documented, it's always there and kept.
The first phase is inception, when you come up with a whole bunch of ideas and brainstorm on the board, and usually we just write over every wall, what if we did this, what if we did that, what if we did this or that, and you don't really think about scope, it's all about blue sky. Then would be the elaboration, where you take 1 or 2 ideas and you expand upon them, and you say, well, what if we went in this direction? We're in the elaboration stage right now, so we have 2 ideas. What if we went with this direction, what if we went in that direction? I believe the 3rd stage is construction, where we start working on creating the final assets, working on one game, one direction, one vision. Everyone in the team sort of breaks off and does their role, and then there's and you still kind of iterate, but not as much anymore. And then the last one is I'd say polish. We call it polishing. We just polish off everything so it looks pretty and there's no hiccups, and you have fixed it so that it works.
An hour where everyone shows off what they did, and then everybody else colludes and I guess critiques and offers insight onto what was done. And then we take that information, right? This is the reevaluation phase, and we take all this evaluation and we come up with a new sprint for the next week. And that way we continually iterate on our ideas while continually evaluating and reevaluating to create a process through which we can make a better and better and better product.